Silent shock, the water you thought was helping. Some mornings it starts with a single sip. The glass is clear, the water looks harmless, but then your stomach clenches, just a little. A strange chill rises in your chest, and a quiet thought slips through your mind. Maybe it's just age. But what if it isn't? What if the water, this thing we've trusted our whole lives, isn't the problem? What if how we drink it is? Most people won't talk about this. They'll tell you to stay hydrated and drink more water. But they won't mention the nausea, the bloating, the dizzy spell when you stand up too fast. They won't say how easy it is to mistake the symptoms for something worse. This isn't about fear. It's about finally understanding the signals your body has been whispering for years. And no, this doesn't require another pill, another prescription, or a new diet trend. Just a few simple foods. No prescriptions needed. And mornings feel different again. Mistake 1. Ice-cold water on an empty stomach. Eleanor didn't think she was doing anything wrong. She was 76. Still sharp, still independent, and every morning without fail she'd open the fridge, pour a glass of ice-cold water, and drink it in one long sip before even turning on the lights. "It helps me wake up," she used to say. "It clears my throat, gets me going." But something had started to change. The water didn't feel energizing anymore. It felt jarring. She'd finish her glass, sit down to read, and within minutes feel a quiet discomfort bubbling in her stomach. Her hands would grow cold. A chill would run through her chest. And sometimes, without warning, her digestion just refused to start. Still, she brushed it off. "It's just age," she told herself. "Probably normal." But the body has a way of telling the truth. Gently, then persistently. What Eleanor didn't realize was that her glass of water, so simple and pure, was quietly overwhelming her system. You see, when we sleep, our body shifts into repair mode. Blood vessels narrow, organs slow down, the stomach rests. Everything moves gently, like a quiet river at dawn. Then morning comes, and we jolted awake with a shock of cold. That cold water tightens blood vessels even more. It causes the stomach muscles to contract. It triggers a mini stress response. And at 70, the body doesn't rebound from shocks the way it once did. What felt refreshing at 35 can feel like a slap at 75. When Eleanor mentioned the cold water to her doctor during a routine checkup, the advice was surprisingly simple. Try room temperature. Let it sit out overnight, or add a splash of warm water. She shrugged at first, but out of curiosity, she gave it a try. No more fridge glass, just water left on the nightstand. No more cramps, no more chills. And by the end of the week, something deeper had shifted. Her mornings felt gentler, like her body was finally being invited into the day, not forced into it. She smiled as she told me the story. "I thought I was falling apart. Turns out, I was just freezing myself from the inside." It's not about drinking less. It's about drinking kinder. That's the quiet truth no one tells you. The way you hydrate can either support your healing or silently steal from it. And the fix isn't in a bottle, isn't in a pill. It's in slowing down, in listening, in trusting that your body, after all these years, is still speaking to you. Type 2 if you've ever had a glass of cold water in the morning and then felt lightheaded. I read every comment because it's very possible the next story could be yours. But Eleanor wasn't alone, because Walter, he wasn't freezing his body, he was flooding it. Mistake 2. Drinking too fast or in big gulps. Walter used to be a coach, not the loud kind, but the kind who could hold a kid's gaze with just one look and say, "Take your time, find your rhythm." Funny how we teach others what we forget to do ourselves. Every morning, Walter had a routine. Wake up, sit up, grab the plastic bottle on his nightstand, unscrew the cap, and drink the entire thing in less than 15 seconds. He thought it was discipline. Hydrate first, he told himself. No excuses. But some mornings, as he stood to get dressed, the walls would tilt just a little. His vision would blur for a second. And his heart, it would flutter. Not in fear, not in love, but in warning. He never connected the dots. Until one day, the dizziness lingered. He sat back down slowly, whispering to himself, "Don't fall, not today." Here's what most people don't know. When we sleep, our body isn't just resting, it's rebalancing. Your blood pressure dips, your heart rate slows, your digestive system pauses. And when you wake up, everything starts to adjust, gradually. But when you pour a full glass of water into that still waking system in one big rush, you don't refresh it. You overwhelm it. The stomach expands too fast. The kidneys kick in suddenly. Your electrolyte balance shifts before your body is ready. And for older adults, that quick shock can lead to nausea, dizziness, even confusion that lasts well into the day. Walter didn't need medication. He didn't need more water. He just needed a pause. His doctor suggested something simple. Instead of drinking your water all at once, try sipping it over 15 to 20 minutes. Let your body receive it, not fight it. Walter changed nothing else. Same bottle, same bed, same water. But this time he drank it slowly, just a few sips at a time. He sat up, breathed, watched the morning light crawl across the curtains, and the dizziness, it disappeared. So did the tightness in his chest. His energy steadied. His mornings softened. He told me, I used to treat water like a task. Now it's a kindness I give myself. So if you've been rushing to hydrate, thinking it's the right thing, maybe it's not about drinking more, but slower. Type 1 if you've ever woken up and your legs felt like they didn't belong to you. Sometimes your body isn't failing. It's just asking for a gentler rhythm. And speaking of rhythm, there's something else disrupting it. Something sitting quietly on your nightstand right now. Looking innocent, but hiding more than you think. Mistake 3. Drinking from plastic bottles left out overnight. Stanley liked his routine simple. No apps, no gadgets, just old habits that had worked for decades. Each night before bed, he'd fill a plastic bottle with tap water, set it on the nightstand, and drink from it the next morning before his feet even touched the floor. He was 78. Sharp, practical, careful with what he ate. But over the last few months, he'd been feeling off. Not sick, just slower. Some days, he'd wake up with a dull headache. Other days, he'd feel bloated even before breakfast. And even after a full night's sleep, his energy just wasn't there. He thought maybe it was the bread, or his age, or maybe, as he joked to his daughter, the batteries are just getting low. But the blood work was fine. His diet hadn't changed. He was doing everything right. So why did he feel so wrong? It wasn't until a nutritionist asked a simple question that things began to unravel. What kind of bottle do you drink from in the morning? Stanley blinked. Just an old plastic one, he said. Been using it for years. And there it was. You see, plastic bottles, especially the older, cheaper ones, can leach chemicals into water over time. If the bottle sits out overnight, exposed to warmth, light, or even mild heat from a nearby lamp, those chemicals begin to migrate. Even BPA-free plastics aren't entirely safe. Many still contain compounds that mimic hormones in the body. For someone younger, the body might detox easily. But in older adults, where hormone balance is more fragile and the liver, kidneys, and endocrine system already work harder, these small exposures can have real effects. Not instant, but steady, subtle, and draining. Stanley didn't change everything, just one thing. He bought a glass bottle with a silicone sleeve. He filled it with fresh water each morning, not the night before. No reusing, no warming plastic, no slow drip of invisible toxins. And the difference? Took less than 2 weeks to notice. The headaches disappeared, his digestion eased, and most importantly, his mornings stopped feeling like a struggle. He looked at me and said, "Turns out it wasn't my age, it was the bottle." That's the quiet danger, doing something that feels healthy while unknowingly harming yourself every single day. Type 3 if you've ever thought, eating simply couldn't possibly affect your health. It's not about being perfect. It's about noticing the details. The small things we trust even when they stop serving us. But bottles and temperature aren't the only pieces of the puzzle. Because what you drink, and when you drink it, especially after your morning medication, can change everything. Mistake 4. Drinking too much water after medication on a full or empty stomach. Margaret had always followed directions. She took her thyroid medication each morning at 6:30 sharp, just like her doctor told her. 1 glass of water, 1 small pill, done. Then she'd wait half an hour before eating her breakfast. Oatmeal, some blueberries, maybe half a banana if it was ripe. It was a routine that had worked for years, until one morning, it didn't. She sat at the table, hands curled around her mug, and felt it, a wave of nausea. A strange queasiness that rolled up from her stomach, settling behind her ribs like a knot she couldn't name. She didn't say anything at first. Maybe it was the fruit, or the weather, or just one of those days. But the feeling came back, again and again. Each morning, right after her pill, like a shadow waiting in the same spot. She tried ginger tea, walking it off, breathing slowly. Nothing helped. Finally, she mentioned it during her next visit. Her doctor listened, then asked gently, "How much water do you drink with the pill?" Margaret paused. "A full glass," she said. "Isn't that what I'm supposed to do?" But here's what many don't realize. Drinking too much water too quickly on an empty stomach, especially after medication, can irritate the lining of the stomach. It can trigger nausea, dizziness, even interfere with how the body absorbs the pill. And if you've just eaten a full meal, the opposite happens. The water dilutes stomach acid and slows absorption. Both ends of the spectrum can cause the same uncomfortable result. Your body, in those early morning moments, is still calibrating. Hormones are shifting, blood pressure is adjusting, digestion hasn't fully woken up. So even something as gentle as water, if given at the wrong time or in the wrong amount, can feel like too much. Margaret made one small change. Instead of a full glass, she took just enough water to swallow the pill, about 2 or 3 sips. Then she waited a full 45 minutes before eating. She gave her body space, she gave it time, and within days, the nausea was gone. She told me, "I thought maybe I was becoming sensitive to the medication, but it wasn't that. It was the way I was treating my stomach, like it didn't need gentleness." Sometimes what we think is aging is actually just an old habit that needs a little kindness. But there was one more habit Margaret had picked up, without even realizing it. One that felt healthy on the surface, but left her body running on empty. Mistake 5. Skipping breakfast and only drinking water. Alice was never much of a breakfast person. At 69, she still handled most things on her own, groceries, gardening, even her taxes. But mornings, she preferred them quiet and simple. A glass of water, a bit of sunlight, maybe a walk if the weather was kind. She had read somewhere, on a health blog or maybe a magazine at the clinic, that fasting in the morning could help with energy, even weight loss. So she started skipping breakfast, just water until noon. She told herself it felt clean, and at first, it did. The first few weeks, she dropped a couple pounds. Her stomach felt lighter, but something else began to change, softly at first. She found herself repeating stories, losing track of time, and sometimes standing in the middle of the kitchen, unsure why she walked in. Her daughter noticed before she did. "Mom," she asked gently, "did you eat anything today?" Alice paused. "No, just water," she said. And even as the words came out, something inside her shifted, like a light flickering in the back of her mind. Here's what most people forget. When you wake up, your body has already been fasting for 8, sometimes 10 hours. Blood sugar is low, muscles are underfueled. Your brain, especially in older adults, relies on a steady supply of glucose and nutrients to function clearly. Water alone rehydrates, yes, but it doesn't nourish. And when paired with coffee, as many do, it can overstimulate without support, leaving you tired, jittery, or mentally foggy by late morning. Alice didn't need a buffet. She just needed a foundation. Her doctor suggested starting small. 1 boiled egg, a slice of whole grain toast, half a banana, or a handful of blueberries. She was skeptical. It's just food, she thought. How much of a difference could it make? But within days, the fog began to lift. Her thoughts felt more stable. Her walks became easier. She stopped feeling shaky by 11 a.m. She looked at her daughter one morning and said, "I don't know why I stopped eating breakfast. Maybe I just forgot that my body still needs care." That's what we often forget. Simple nourishment is not indulgence, it's respect. Because water is a gift. But without real fuel, it's like filling a tank with air. Alice didn't go back to big breakfasts. She just gave her body something to stand on. But if these stories have one thing in common, it's not just what changed, it's how it changed. Gently, quietly, and with a kind of wisdom that only comes with age. Gentle adjustments, powerful impact. There was no single moment when everything got better. No miracle tea, no breakthrough test result. Just small things, quiet things, the kind most people overlook. Walter stopped chugging his water and sipped it slowly by the window. Eleanor let her glass sit out overnight, trading shock for comfort. Stanley moved on from plastic, trusting glass instead. Margaret halved her water and gave her body time. And Alice, finally, gave herself breakfast. None of them changed who they were. They just listened. And that's what this part is really about. Not information, not instruction, but permission. Permission to slow down, to stop treating your body like a machine and start treating it like a companion. Because here's the thing no one tells you. The body always whispers first, long before the symptoms come, long before the doctor visit. It whispers in the chill that won't leave your hands, in the dizziness you call normal, in the bloating, the tightness, the confusion you brush aside. And if we don't listen, those whispers grow louder. But when we do listen, something powerful happens. Not dramatic, not loud, just steadier mornings, calmer stomachs, fewer stumbles, more peace. Let me tell you about one more person, Robert. He was 74, a former postal worker, proud of his independence, but every morning he'd feel bloated for hours. His wife thought it was the toast. But when he stopped using the plastic bottle he left in the car overnight and started pouring fresh, lukewarm water into a cup each morning, he didn't even realize at first that his bloating was gone. It wasn't until a week later, standing at the sink, that he said aloud, I don't feel heavy today." That's the power of small things. You don't always notice when they start working. You just notice that something inside you feels less burdened. Because you're not. And these shifts, however small, are not just about comfort, they're about respect. Respecting your age, your rhythm, your needs. And if you've read this far, if part of you is still wondering whether something this simple could really matter, just try one thing. Pick one change. Stay with it for a week. And maybe, like Robert, you'll one day pause at the sink, smile to yourself and whisper, "I don't feel heavy today." But there's something even deeper beneath these habits, something stronger than hydration, something that shapes the entire way we live. It starts not in the stomach or the heart, but in the mind. Mindset over medicine. At some point, you stop asking, "What should I eat?" and start asking, "What is my body asking for?" That's the quiet shift. From chasing cures to building connection, from reacting to listening. And no pill, no diet, no trendy article can give you that. Only you can. Because the truth is, hydration is just the surface. Beneath it lies something deeper. Mindset. It's the way you approach your mornings. Are they rushed? Mechanical? Do you treat your body like something to fix? Or something worth being gentle with? Margaret used to see her medication as a task. Walter treated water like a box to check. Alice thought hunger was a weakness she had to overcome. They weren't doing anything wrong. They were just doing what so many of us do, believing that health means control, speed, precision. But healing doesn't rush, and your body doesn't need to be fixed. It needs to be heard. Let me tell you about Diane. She was 70, fiercely independent, rarely asked for help. She kept her routine tight: wake up, wash up, water, pills, coffee. By 10 a.m., she'd often feel tired, dizzy, sometimes anxious. She blamed it on bad sleep. Getting old, she'd say. But deep down, she was scared. One day, her granddaughter asked her, "Grandma, what does your morning feel like?" Diane paused. No one had ever asked her that. She thought about it and said quietly, "It feels like I'm running from something." That sentence changed everything. She stopped drinking water in one go. She added a few bites of toast. She sat by the window before turning on the TV. She didn't add more things, she softened the things she was already doing. And the anxiety? It didn't vanish overnight. But it eased. Because she wasn't rushing anymore, she was responding. What if your legs weren't weak, but tired of being ignored? What if your stomach didn't rebel, but simply needed a gentler rhythm? Because behind every uncomfortable symptom is not just biology, it's emotion, memory, belief. When you treat hydration like an act of self-respect, not self-discipline, your body responds differently. It softens, it stabilizes, it feels safer. And maybe that's what this has all been about. Not just water, not just food, but trust. And the quiet decision to stop fighting your body and start partnering with it. But sometimes the biggest shift doesn't show up in lab results. It shows up on someone's face when they realize they're no longer afraid to start the day. The quiet return of trust. Diane didn't expect anything to change. She wasn't chasing transformation. She just wanted her hands to stop trembling when she poured her coffee. She wanted to walk to the mailbox without holding the railing. She wanted one morning, just one, where she didn't feel like her own body was a stranger. And then one Wednesday, she noticed it. The light through the curtains looked softer. The cup in her hand felt steady. She took a breath. Not a deep breath, not a dramatic one. Just a full one. She hadn't changed her medication. She hadn't started a new routine. All she did was listen. Sip slowly, sit longer, eat something simple, treat the first hour of the day as sacred. Her granddaughter hugged her that afternoon and said, "Grandma, you feel warmer today." And Diane smiled, not because of the compliment, but because it was true. That's the power of gentle change. It doesn't shout, it doesn't promise. It just shows up quietly, until one day you realize you're not afraid of the mornings anymore. If even one part of this story felt familiar to you, if even one habit made you pause and think, that means something inside you is still listening, still growing, still open. And that matters more than any prescription ever could. Leave a comment below. Tell me which part stayed with you the most. You never know. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. And if you know someone who drinks cold water first thing in the morning or skips breakfast thinking it's healthy, send this to them. Quiet care spreads best through quiet reminders. You can also save this video, just in case you need it someday. Or explore the next one in our series. It's right below. And just like this one, designed for people who believe that healing doesn't have to be loud to be real. Because mornings don't have to feel heavy. They can feel clear, simple, and full of quiet strength, just like you.